Hey, it's Cris Chico, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the entire model for what I consider to be the best wholesaling business in 2025. Big picture, leads come to you. There's no chasing. You're no longer the annoying pest. You are the welcome guest. Zero manual labor, meaning that you don't either have to be cold calling yourself or hiring other humans to cold call for you and then having to manage them. A higher conversion rate when it comes to leads because all these leads are warm. When instead of a cold call lead, when you call them and they're combative and they're saying, "How'd you get my number? Who are you?" etc. These are leads that are already expecting a phone call and a text message from you because they filled out a form. It's infinitely scalable. It's infinitely scalable because of the fact that, if you wanted to bring in more leads, you don't have to do any more cold calling. You don't have to hire another cold caller. You don't have to skip trace another list. All you have to do is just change a couple digits on your computer screen and increase your budget. And again, the best thing about this is that it's a rejection-free real estate wholesaling business. So you're no longer the annoying pest. You are now the welcome guest. Now, if you are paying per leads, let's say, because you have a couple of different options if you want this inbound system, is you could hire an agency. I'm going to assume that you don't want to hire an agency because now you are not in control of your marketing. You're paying a monthly fee. And so you'd rather have control of it. Now, some of you might be buying leads individually from other companies. Now, the method that I'm going to describe here will replace that because you're going to be paying significantly less per lead than you would be if you were paying for these leads individually to lead companies. Now, with this system, you own it. So you are the one that's completely in charge. It's your asset. I believe that marketing is the most important asset in your business. And so therefore, you want to own it. You want to have control of it. You control the messaging. You control the targeting. And again, whenever you feel like it, if you wanted to increase the volume, all you got to do is increase the budget. And it builds your business. It builds your brand. And every lead that comes to you is only yours and nobody else's because you own this thing. So let's go through exactly all the different components and how they all flow together and come together. Hey, if you're thinking, man, I would love to get help in implementing this system, what can you do to help? Well, we could help two ways. Number one is we can show you step by step, looking over your shoulder, how to put this together. Or we can actually put it together for you, hand deliver it to you, and then watch over your shoulder as you operate it to make sure that you're able to run it and you're going to get amazing leads and start doing deals. If that's of interest to you, then click the link in the description, reach out, and then we'll have a chat and see what we can do to help. So we're going to start off on Facebook, but we are going to, again, transition into incorporating TikTok into the mix. So you're going to go ahead and go to business.facebook.com, and you're going to create a business manager. That's going to enable you to then start advertising on Facebook. Now, if you have a Facebook account, then you have a personal ad account, but you don't want to advertise inside of your personal ad account. You want to create a business manager, just kind of setting up like a little corporation inside of Facebook, and then be able to then now from there, now you're going to create all the assets that you need in order to be able to advertise. Now, there are a couple of things you need to create. We're going to go ahead and create a business page. So this is like if you think about it, that's like a website, the equivalent of a website inside of Facebook's ecosystem. You're also going to create an ad account. And so inside of a business manager, you can create, initially, they'll probably restrict you to just a couple of ad accounts, but you can create, I have business managers that I can create thousands of accounts. You don't need that. You just need one. But inside the business manager, you'll be able to create the ad account. You'll create the Facebook page. You can create it within the business manager. If you already have a business page, you can take that business page and bring it into the business manager. But either way, that page has to be inside of the business manager, so that way it can be connected to the Facebook ad account here as well. So they're kind of all interconnected. We're going to create what's called the Facebook pixel. The appropriate term nowadays is called a data set. But nevertheless, most people know it as the Facebook pixel. We're going to create the Facebook pixel and then make sure that's also added to the ad account. So all these things are kind of connected together. Then from the business page, we are going to also create inside of the business page, we're going to create a lead form. And that's our collection device so that we can go ahead and collect the data from the sellers as they submit their information after they see our ads. So this is an example of what some of the questions are for us. We ask for what type of property it is a property listed with an agent, what's the reason for wanting to sell, who's living at the property, location, asking price, and contact information. Now, this again is housed within the business page, however, and it is going to be shown on our ads. Now, the key thing here is you're going to need a website. Now, we're going to be using Facebook's lead collection system here in order to get the seller's information. At the tail end of that, once they submit their information, they're going to be sent to a thank you page. Plus, Facebook requires you to have a link to your privacy policy. And that privacy policy has to be housed somewhere, which typically is on the website. So you need a website, even though we're going to be using this to collect the lead information, and we're not going to be sending people to our website to have them submit their information here. We still need a website. Now, you should still have a website so that when you talk to sellers, that acts as a layer of credibility with your property owners, because nowadays there's no business cards. We're doing this business 100% virtually. And so as a result, then, you got to be able to tell the seller, hey, this is Cris with National Property Buyer, and then be able to give them your website. And they say, oh, okay, great. Yeah, you're legitimate. You have a website. And so again, the reason for the website is both from a credibility standpoint, but also at the same time, we do need to link to a privacy policy for the use of lead forms. Once we set everything up here, now we're ready to go into the ads manager and create our ads so that we can show them to property owners looking to sell their property at a discount. Now, with these ads here, we use a combination on Facebook of videos and the images. It's important for us to use both because there's a lot of different placements inside of Facebook. And the majority of the time, we're getting leads either from the Facebook feed or the Facebook reel or Instagram reels. And so we need to make sure that we have good videos and good visuals along with headlines and copy as well. So we need all these components in order to be able to advertise on Facebook. Now, when the ad is seen by the property owner and then they subsequently input their information on the form, then I'm just repositioning. Then they then click on the button, and then this lead form, which I showed you already, will open up and they submit their information. So let me share with you some examples of the type of leads that we get in terms of cost on Facebook. We have leads here that are targeting our top 95 cities. You can see here, it's a little bit blurry, but you should be able to see $27 a lead. These are the second one underneath is a campaign targeting a very tight geographic area, Virginia, New York, etc. These leads are coming in a slightly more at $35 and $45 per lead. And you have some here that are cities at $10.11, $10.11 per lead. And you have a $36 per lead here in Tampa. And you have another campaign here targeting the top one targeting cities at $22 per lead, another one targeting nationwide. So when we're running these campaigns, you can run them anywhere you want, honestly. So you can run them tight in your geographic area, or if you're like us, then you run them across 10 to 12 states, and now we're doing deals virtually all across the country. And I'll show you how we find the buyers for these deals. But now let me go back to, because once these ads are running and you start to get leads, then what happens to those leads? Well, we're going to go ahead and go to this particular area. But before I do that, let's talk about TikTok ads. Now, TikTok ads are very similar to Facebook ads, and with the exception of a few things. Number one is there's not going to be any images that you're going to be using. You're going to be using videos. The nice thing is that whatever videos you're using here on Facebook, for the most part, if they work on Facebook, you'll be able to bring them in and make them work on TikTok. And TikTok is the same thing. We're going to set up a business manager inside of TikTok, and we're going to be using TikTok's internal lead collection system that is very similar to Facebook's. Now, they're very similar because TikTok basically ripped off everything that Facebook does. It's not as polished, but everything works the same. Campaign structure, the entire thing. And so, we collect the same identical information. We copy exactly the same questions, everything from Facebook, and create a lead form inside of TikTok. Now, a question that comes up all the time is, Chico, I thought TikTok ads is really just young people. There's not our demographic of motivated sellers on there, because most of my motivated sellers that we do business with are older people. Well, here's an interesting thing. I took from an account. Let's take a look at this right here. This particular account, on the right, you see the conversions here, and it shows 147 conversions. And it shows the range of the age, 55 years or over. The majority of conversions, 147. Next, 45 to 54, 89 conversions, 35 to 44, 66, and then further down the line. And you can tell at the lower age bracket, 18 to 24, barely any conversions. So the majority of the cost spent and the ad serve were to the older demographic. So there definitely is an older demographic. TikTok, same as Facebook, has a variety of different interests. The nice thing about TikTok is that you can see also, what interest people had when they convert, and so therefore now you can target by that. These are the top interests: business and economy, real estate, home and rentals, insurance, professional consultation, etc. And you can see here a graph of the number of conversions and the age group. So TikTok is definitely a platform where older motivated sellers are. So I'll give you an example of the type of leads and the cost per lead on TikTok. Here are similar campaigns as Facebook nationwide, $34 per lead states. This is 44. These were $12 for nationwide. So the nationwide is about $12 to $15. This one, I'm not sure why it was, let's see here. They were a little bit high on this particular campaign. Maybe the customer had a creative that just wasn't doing the best. And here's some that are states: 22 states, $32 per lead, $28 per lead. And then here's a customer that had states at 32 and 34. So the cost per lead is equivalent to Facebook, plus or minus a few dollars. So that's why it's an easy thing to go from Facebook, use your creatives on TikTok, and be able to then have similar campaigns running, and then now you have two different platforms you're getting leads from. Now, once these leads start coming in, right? So we have the campaigns that are running here, and here if you're doing TikTok. Now, one thing I would say is that running TikTok and Facebook really depends on your budget. If you have a budget of, say, only $20 a day, $600 a month, then you're not going to be able to run both, because then you're spreading out your money between two platforms. It's really inefficient to be able to do that. So you want to focus on one. You would bring in TikTok, for example, if you are spending $1,000, to $1,500 a month on Facebook. You got some extra money. You say, hey, let me throw some money into TikTok, and then that makes more sense there. But if you've got a low budget, you got to decide on one or the other. If you're going to decide on one, I would probably say just Facebook. That's where almost all the deals we've closed over the last 6 months have been. TikTok is still a great platform, but that's just what I would decide. Now, once the leads come in and people have submitted their information, we need a way in order to get those leads over to you. And so then we're going to go ahead and use Zapier. Zapier is a platform that allows us to connect pretty much all things on the internet. And we're going to set up what's called a Zap, meaning we're going to use Zapier in order to send our lead particular places. First thing we're going to do is we're going to send ourselves an email with that lead information. So that way we know that, hey, we got a lead. We're notified. I like this as a way of redundancy to make sure we get notified. Now, this is optional. You can take all your leads and put them in a Google Sheet. So then that way you can, at a bird's eye view, see every single lead that has come in over the last week, over the last couple of weeks, and then you can kind of better analyze those leads as a grouping. Now, you need a CRM. You need a way to manage your leads. I'm a big fan of keeping the tech low, meaning that you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of learning a brand new CRM and getting involved with all of that and configuring it. And next thing you know, you got this wonderful machine, but you got no money, you got no deals. So you can either do a couple things, right? Some people create a CRM using Google Sheets. I don't recommend that because we're a fan of using Trello, and this is what we do, specifically what we use. And it's a great CRM because it's free. I have a video on my channel about using Trello, and you can set it up. It's free, and we have clients doing 2 to 3 deals a month. Just with this, you're going to use your phone to call people. You're not going to have a phone system, but you don't need that. You just need something where the leads are not going to fall through the cracks. You can operate this on your desktop or on your mobile device, and it really is a perfect, intuitive, easy system to get started with and not overcomplicate things. So this is how it would look like if you have all the leads come into a centralized sheet. And also this gives you an idea of the leads and what we ask. So we ask for, property information. Here's the price, the property type, occupancy, condition, motivation, etc. You don't see here, for example, we ask if the property is listed. We also ask a variety of other questions, but this will give you an idea of, hey, the leads are going to be coming in. What can you expect? But predominantly, you're gonna get an email notification, but you're going to be working the leads out of Trello or whatever the CRM you have, just to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. Now, let's talk about a key thing about these property owners. Very important. They reach out to us. So they are warm leads. So when you call them back, it's just saying, hey, Bob, this is Cris with National Property Buyer. You filled out a form on Facebook. You saw our ad on Facebook. You filled out a form requesting an offer on your property. Does that ring a bell? Yes, great, terrific. Well, if you got a few minutes, love to get some information about the property and see if it's something that we'd be interested in purchasing from you. Got a few minutes? Yes, of course. And then you just go right into the questions. They're happy to hear from you. You're not an annoying pest, so that's a clear distinction between this and also doing cold calling. And they're motivated because they saw the ad, which clearly articulates what we're looking to do for them in terms of help, and they filled out a form with a bunch of questions. So unless they're completely nuts, filling out forms for no reason on Facebook, then they're motivated. They want an offer on their property. And, when you're calling back, just to keep it simple, bottom line, we're looking to figure out what their situation is and if we can help. We need to know their price. We need to know their motivation. We need to have a reasonable understanding of their property, of the condition of the property, and then timeline, and really dig into what is it that prompted you to reach out to us versus listing with an agent. They might say, well, I just don't want to deal with making repairs. I just don't want to deal with the tenants. Whatever the situation is, if they have a situation that, is a stressful to them, then that's going to create an opportunity for us to help them, and we'll make money and they'll be able to get the property sold without stress. Now, how do we analyze these deals? I know there's a lot of tools out there to analyze deals, and we predominantly use Zillow in order to analyze our deals. What the hell is that? All those balloons. Did you see that? All right, we analyze deals using Zillow. We're going to get a variety of different leads when we're doing Facebook ads, especially when we're doing more of a distributed geographic type of targeting, meaning that we're targeting a variety of different cities and states. And however, you may not have this issue if you're just targeting, localized areas that you're very familiar with. But let's say that you're doing it nationwide, targeting the top 95 cities, where you're going to get deals in large metro areas, Dallas, Texas, for example. You're going to get deals in small towns, like, for example, Midland, Texas, which at first you may think, oh, there's nothing here. But in fact, these are very viable markets. And you're going to get deals that are in the middle of nowhere. The ones that are in the middle of nowhere, we're not going to be able to do anything with. So those are going to be scratch leads. And if you're doing nationwide ads, you're typically going to get more of those than you would otherwise, but they're going to be really cheap leads. So if you're inexperienced, need experience in talking with property owners, I typically recommend doing nationwide for a couple of weeks, get a lot of leads in, have a lot of conversations with property owners, and then you can narrow it down to cities and to states. Now, I'll give you an example of a deal. This is a deal that we did in Temple, Texas. Now, some of you might think, Chico, Temple, Texas, that's a big city. I never heard of Temple, Texas until this lead came in. I'm geographically challenged. I'm sorry. But it is a population size of 93,000 people. Mind you, I live in Broward County, Florida, which is over 2 million people. So it is small. Now, this particular Temple, Texas, for those of you that are also as equally geographically challenged as me, is between Waco and Austin, Texas. So what we do is we look at Zillow and we see that, wow, there's a lot of activity. The dots on the left are the red dots. Those are the active properties. The ones on the right are yellow, which are sold. So we can see clearly that there's a lot of stuff happening in Temple, Texas. And what we do is it's just a very simple decision-making process on leads. Is it a viable lead? Meaning that it's not too rural, not vacant land, because we don't do vacant land. Mobile home without the land, because then we don't do mobile homes without the land, and we also don't want to do listed property. So if it's listed, we really don't deal with it. About 20% of the leads are listed, so it's not that bad. Now, is this a viable market? Meaning that we want to be able to see a good ratio. We want to see activity, and we want to see a ratio of active to pending sales, so that we know that, hey, things are moving. Then also, is this, what would the use case for this property? A lot of times we get properties that are kind of in the middle of nowhere, and a client will ask us, hey, I think this is a good deal. And my next response is, who's going to buy this thing and what are they going to do with it? It might be an amazingly cheap property, but unless there's a use case for somebody buying this and they're going to turn around and make money from this property, if that doesn't exist, then it's not going to be a viable deal. And then, we use actives and SOs in order to determine the value of that particular property. So, in this particular deal came in asking $60K, and Zillow had already shown the value there. I don't know if you can see that, of $129,000. That's what the value was at the time that this lead came in, and they were asking $60,000. We use an offer calculator in order to figure out what the values are on the particular property. I'll let you know what we did with that property. But in essence, we're just using Zillow in order to determine activity, viability, and then figuring out what the values are on the property. I'll show you another hack in a little bit here in the video of how we use other tools in order to figure out precisely what investors are buying properties for in that area. A question that I get asked very often is, Chico, how do I get boots on the ground? How do I figure out, about a property, the repairs, if I'm not even there, if I'm not even in that local area? Well, we don't need boots on the ground. First of all, you don't need to estimate repairs. We guesstimate repairs. Generally, we just say, properties typically are going to need 25 to 30 grand. And then when the buyer goes there, they'll look at it and then they'll tell us if that's a problem or if it needs more work or not. But in essence, we do need photos. We do need something to let us know about this particular property since we're virtual. We rely heavily on Google Street View in order to figure out, hey, visually, what does the property look like? You got to look at the Google Street View and see what year it was that the Google Street View was, just to make sure that it's accurate. And then look around the neighborhood and see what you find. Does it look like a war zone? Does it look like Afghanistan in the middle of Idaho? Who knows? But bottom line is, Google Street View is what we do. And then we don't really need an official inspection. We just need, and we don't need to personally meet the sellers. We just need to have some, at least a decent idea of what the, what the condition is just by pictures. Now, if we can generally get the property owner many times to give us photos of the property because they have a cell phone. We can have them take photos and they can email the photos or send them by text message, and then that's it. If we are not able to get photos from the property owner, then we'll use a service, either HomeJob or BPO Photo Flow. I think they changed the name to something else. It redirects. It's called Velocity REOs. We generally use BPO Photo Flow first before HomeJob. HomeJob is more expensive, and if we're in a pickle, we can't find coverage with BPO Photo Flow, then we'll do HomeJob. But this one is pretty much will suffice. Pay $75 or so in order to get photos of the property. If we have just a handful of photos from the property owner, what we could do is when we find a buyer, we can get them to go to the property and then ask them, hey, look, we'll give you first dibs. If it's not something for you, then maybe you might be able to snap a few photos for us and send them our way. So that's kind of how we handle photos of the property. That's really all we need. The next question is, how do we find the buyers for these properties? Well, we have two different main ways that we have of finding our buyers. Now, the other thing is, these sources can also be used in order for us to figure out if a property is viable to begin with before we put it on the contract, especially I'm talking about here when you're wholesaling. We do other strategies such as novations. I'll cover that in a second. But let's just say that you want to know if this particular deal has viability. You can use these tools, but you also use these tools for us to find the buyers. We have two that we use. Number one is Investor Lift. Investor Lift is a platform in which you can go and you'll list your property. And then the difference between Investor Lift and Investor Base is one is more inbound, one is more outbound. Investor Lift is more inbound. So you put a property. This is kind of what a listing would look like on Investor Lift. You put the details of the property and everything, and then you can send out a marketing campaign. And when you send out a marketing campaign, you're going to get a bunch of inquiries like this, where a bunch of investors that are already in the platform looking for deals, as soon as the listing is put on Investor Lift, then they're going to go ahead and be notified of that. And then you can also push notifications out to those individuals either by email or text message. And then they're going to start reaching out to you and asking you details about the property. And so then now they are requesting the address through the platform, so they'll have the address, and then you'll reach out to them in order to communicate with them and then be able to then see who's interested and who's not, etc. So that's how Investor Lift works. Now, Investor Base, the way Investor Base works is you're going to go in and let's say you typed in the property address. It's going to give you an interface that looks like this. The green dots are the landlord buyers. The blue dots are fix and flip individuals. And you can click on and hover over any one of these deals. So, for example, you click on the blue one, and then the property information will show up. It'll show up how much they purchased that for, and then how much they sold it for. Which is interesting because in this particular one, we see that it was purchased for $321, and then later sold for $501. $321 is 64% of ARV, and then you can click on the Zillow link, and then it'll take you right to Zillow, and then you can see. In this scenario, probably would see the property completely rehabbed. And so it's a great tool. Now, the only thing is with this tool is you'll get the information here as you're searching, and you can do a skip trace, and then you're going to get the phone numbers. You see here, I blurred them out just for privacy reasons. But in this scenario, the system will tell you, hey, out of all these buyers, these top Linda Abbott might be your best deal. So you'll reach out to Linda, and then you just have a conversation with her. Hey, Linda, this is Chris. I'm a real estate investor and a wholesaler, and I noticed you bought a property at 1002 Pemberton Brown Mills Road. And I was just curious if you're looking for more properties, because I got a property that I'm interested in assigning. I have a contract on it, interested in assigning it, and wanted to see if you might be somebody interested. And that's it. So, it's a bit more outbound, so more laborious. However, I think for us, we do deals with both of them. When you've got a big assignment fee and our average assignment fee of $15K on the line, then you want to do everything you can in order to be able to find a buyer for these particular deals. In this scenario here, for example, this is a deal that we did where we made $32K from a deal, and this one was sold inside of investor base. However, we sell equally off of investor lift. Let me walk through a quick example deal that's within this system here. Let's walk through an example deal here. This is a deal that we had done at 2419 Memorial Drive in Bryan, Texas. This is the picture of the house. Now, Bryan, Texas is not a major market. It's, you can see where Houston is located. Bryan is north of Houston. And however, there's a lot of activity in this market. So when you look on Zillow, you can see all of this activity. And so on this particular property, we have it on the contract. We got it on the contract for $61,000, and then we ended up Zillow had a value of $176,000, which also it's an interesting thing in that when you're running this model, under a different premise, meaning it's a sifting and sorting model, not a convincing model. Generally speaking, when most real estate investors and wholesalers start out, they start off with cold calling and a very small pool of leads. And so therefore, they need to be great at sales. They need to be really aggressive on sales, and they need to convince people. Versus this is more of you're going to have a lot of leads coming through. You're going to have people that are going to be asking for retail value. You can't avoid that. And you're quickly just trying to disseminate who is someone that is motivated and potentially starting off already at a good price. And then all we got to do is just get a little bit more of a price reduction. And next thing you know, we have a great deal on our hands. So that's really the premise of our system, which is different than your typical one. So in the end, we sold this deal for $87,000. And this was our wire. It's half of what the total assignment fee was. This was one of our clients where we set this up, and they were inexperienced. And so they put the property on the contract under our guidance and then give it to us. We then found the buyer, did all the transaction coordination while they went out and then signed up more deals. If that's something you're interested in, you can always reach out with the link in the description. And now the other thing recently we've been doing is novations. So novations is a strategy where you're able to take a property and be able to take it and put it on the MLS and expose it to a much wider group of buyers. So either other investors that may not be on some of these lists, on investor lift or investor base, but yet they're going to be able to see the deal on the MLS. Or it could be that the property doesn't need a whole lot of work. So it's not really the best use case isn't for somebody to come in and buy it, fix it up and resell it. It could be that the price isn't deep enough for a wholesale deal. And now we can take those deals and then be able to do what's called a novation. This is something we recently started to work with clients on. This is an example of one of our clients where he had spent $3,100, 166 leads. Now, don't let that number scare you. If you're new in the business, you can start off with as little as $20 a day. If you're experienced, then you know that these numbers are really quite good. 166 leads, which generated 3 deals and 2 closed, and then another one closing, which ended up being the case. He ended up closing that 3rd deal, so he made $73K on 2 novations and 1 wholesale deal. Now, he was doing nationwide. That's why he had a lot of leads. If you're, you can always do city campaigns, which means that you'll get your cost per lead will be slightly higher, but you'll get a higher quality number of leads, which means less deals in order to do a contract. Here's another one of our clients. He just started doing nationwide, and he had put a couple properties in the contract with just a handful of leads. and got one sold for 20, and then had another one actually just after I screenshotted this. He was able to go ahead and get the other one sold. For a pretty good number, I think he's going to make between both deals somewhere around 50K. Could be a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but definitely a great opportunity if you can take these leads, especially in these smaller markets, and convert them into novations. Hey, if you're interested in learning more about running Facebook ads for motivated sellers and how it works in deeper detail, then go ahead and click on the video that appears right there. That video will even dig deeper, and that way you can know exactly what it's going to take in order to get these type of leads.